Live streaming is on.
Greetings and welcome to Stunthangar Video Hangouts. My name is Charles Carter and I will be your host this evening. Here at Stunthangar Video Hangouts, we talk about building and flying model airplanes. We talk about sport flying, competition flying. We like to see show and tells. We also what have you done in your shop or at the flying field lately? To join our conversation, if you are already a member of Stunt Hangar Forum, you can find the link if you scroll down to the section called At the Bench. If you're not a member, please register at stunthangar.com. When you register, you must place a space between your real first and last name when you register. You must also use a valid email address or Sparky. The proprietor of Stunt Hangar will not approve you. If you are inclined to not come in and just want to enjoy watching us on YouTube, enjoy, please, and share and like, tell your friends about it. And if you have any comments or questions, please put them in the chat box. I will do my best to make your comments part of the show. Now, mind you, sometimes I can't get a word in edgewise, and so we might have even already left that topic, but I will still put your comments in there. Now, if you find Stunthanger Video Hangouts or the many building videos that Sparky does on this platform informative and enjoyable, please like, share, and subscribe these videos. That helps um, the program grow and move up higher in this recommended videos when you go on YouTube. Also, consider joining our YouTube memberships, which starts at $4.99 a month, which is less than 17 cents a day. And your support helps offset some of the costs of running Stunthanger. And regarding the YouTube memberships, when you are a member, you get special badges. You also get access to unlimited replay of member-only videos. And once a month, Sparky does a Q&A session where you can ask them questions about building or about the plane or any question about building and flying and finishing model airplanes. Sparky is an absolute expert in doing that. Also, I'd like to ask you to keep the conversation tonight family room friendly. Please don't say anything you wouldn't say to around your children or grandchildren. And without any further ado, let me click on the link. Give me a second. I'm looking at this other monitor to post the link here at Stunt Hangar Forum so that people can come in and post. All right. My internet is running really slow. I'm waiting for this page to be refreshed. I hope that there isn't no lagging on my part. I didn't reboot the computer or actually power cycle the router like I usually do. Let me see here. Let me go to YouTube and check out the live chat box. Okay, so I have two monitors, so I'm able to watch the program, and I'm also able to watch the chat box, and I try my best to keep things moving. Let me move this over, down over here. Great. All right, so now I'm actually looking at us and the chat box. So, anyways, um, today I was working on my impact, and I finally have it pretty much squared away where I'm ready to fly. I took some pictures of it and shot a little video of it. It's I'm looking forward to it. I weighed it today, and it weighed 77.9 ounces, so every part of 78 ounces, which is going to be another heavy plane. Which I'm no stranger to that, but I still think it's going to be a great test bed to get the K-77 and the tune pipe set up, and I look forward to it. Figuring out what the line length works and the pipe length, and I have a variety of lines too. I'd like to try the uh, the Ukrainian lines and see what feels good on that plane. Um, hopefully I have some new guests come in. I know the link I posted. Let me see. Did it actually update? Yeah, it updated the link, so it's there. So hopefully I'll have some friends come join us, and I also hope we have some new guests. Um, New guests are always welcome. And right now we have 3 listeners out there, so thank you very much for tuning in, and I appreciate it. Now it's 4, so keep growing. And it's not that hard to come in and register. If you have a camera and a microphone, you can come in and be part of the program and contribute. That'd be wonderful. I'd love for you to be able to come in and participate. I was thinking earlier today, some of the things that maybe I might start doing is something I think might be of interest to people. I'm actually one of my birthday was Tuesday, so last time we shot this video was Monday, the eve of my birthday, and so my wife and kids got me something I wanted, which was a XYZ compound table. I was going to mount that to my drill press and hopefully do some light milling type operations. And so I'm pretty excited about that. Um, so things like that might be of interest to you to see that kind of setup and how that works out. I hope to do some things like that and share some things that maybe you might not be aware of. There's nothing I thought of is I have these, I think they're called, most people are familiar with calipers, but I also have a thing called I think it's called a borescope. And it's not a borescope. But anyways, you can measure the ID of like cylinders, and I use that to make a measurement, like my my fuel compartment in this plane I'm building. Hey, John.
How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm glad you came in to keep me from
Streaming on.
Hey, and Bob Hunt. Great to see you, Bob.
Hey, Bobby. Hey, guys.
Hey, you guys were saving me from just doing some mumbo jumbo talking. Wait for someone to show up.
Well, I haven't seen you wear that costume since VST. Hold on a minute, turn this off.
Yeah.
Because we all deserve a little more this year. Bert Williams.
There. John? Yeah. I haven't seen you wear that costume since VST. I saw that video taken in whose room was it with Gialdini? Wendy's room. Yeah. And I said, I don't recognize him, but I hear his voice. Yeah. Who was the young man there that was had that plane there with no cowl on it? That was Nate Gifford. That was Nate Gifford? Yeah. Whatever happened to him? He got old. It happens to all of us. Just like the rest of us. Oh, shoot. Yeah, he grew up. Yeah. Yeah. Really a shame. This week has been kind of a washout for me. Ever since I heard of the passing of Bob, Bob was very, very close friend. We kept in touch for years and went out to visit him and, out on a sailboat, and we had a lot of fun together. And losing him as a friend was a real kick in the gut, let me tell you. Yeah, I know what you mean. I didn't know him as long as you did, and I didn't know him in the same way. But I did meet him in the early 80s. Yeah. In Wisconsin. He used to keep his boat in the town I lived in. Oh, wow. And he'd come up on weekends and sometimes middle of the week and spend the weekend up there sailing. And he used to come into the same cafe that I went into all the time. Mm-hmm. And we'd sit there and talk. And he told me lots of stories about you guys at the Worlds and the Nats. And we had some real adventures. We really did. He was, and I was just telling my wife, he's one of the last of the real icons of this event, the early icons of this event.
Um, Paul and Les and I, we came, one generation or half a generation later. But, the Bob Gieskes, the Lou McFarlands, the George Aldriches, Bob Palmers, Ed Southwick. You go on and on. There's so many of them that have passed. Charlie Mackey, this past year he passed. There's really not that many left. I called up Wearwich and told him he better stay healthy, so.
Yeah. I remember when at 16 he won the national the first time.
And Billy? Yeah, I think it was. He won junior, and then he won senior. He won at 59. As a senior, he beat Bob Palmer.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear the story about Bob and Bill at VSC about that?
No, I might have, but I don't recall it right at the moment. Why don't you elucidate on that?
I think I actually related that once here, but since, we're waiting for other people to come in, it's something that I can relate again to you, if that's okay, Charles. I mean.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Can you tell me one thing, though? Who is Bob? Bob, what's his last name? Who passed away?
Bob Gialdini.
Bob Gialdini.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I didn't know who you was talking about.
The Eclipse, the whole litany of really great airplanes,
He's got one of his Olympics that he's flying.
Yeah, I have like 2 Olympics right now.
Yeah. I was going to relate a story. I forgot what it was.
About Gialdini and being half a generation off from the old greats.
Yeah, it wasn't. Sorry, I'm getting to that age where if I don't do things as I'm thinking about them, I don't get them done.
I know what you're talking about.
But yeah, he was an amazing man. He really was.
Did he ever tell you how he'd get a lot of his balsa wood for his planes? There was a company there in Milwaukee or Wauwatosa or somewhere that got balsa in as packing material. And they'd climb over the fence on the weekends and they'd throw all this balsa away and they'd pick it up and haul it out of there and cut it up and use it to make their airplanes.
Similar story. My dad, who worked for Eastern Aircraft during the war, World War II, he was the chief troubleshooting engineer at Eastern Aircraft. So he didn't go overseas. He stayed home and worked on FM2 Wildcats and TBM Avengers. But at the end of the war, he found out they were bringing fighter planes, P-51s and P-47s and P-38s into Port Newark, which was only 10 miles from our house or less, and he found out that they were stripping them down and pulling the gas tanks out of them. And the gas tanks in those airplanes were held in place with very light balsa, like 3.5 pound stock balsa.
Oh, wow.
Balsa wood. And they were pulling out the gas tanks so they could just toss them into the bay. They were just taking these things and just shoving them into the bay. That's how they got rid of the airplanes. And before they could throw them in, they had to take the gas tanks out so they didn't pollute the water. They pulled all this balsa wood out, and they had stacks of it. I mean, huge stacks of it on the dock. And he went down and filled up a big truck with balsa for like $20. And we had that balsa in the rafters of our basement, just filled the rafters of our basement. And we had it all over the place. 3.5 pound, 4 pound stock balsa wood. And it was really cool balsa because it had that fungus in it, that green fungus and the brown fungus. And it was light,
Yeah.
And for years, I mean, all the way up into the mid 70s, I would have guys coming down to my shop and we'd be cutting them 1-inch top blocks and 2-inch top blocks out of that stuff. My buddies would take all my balsa. But that was fine because we had so much of it. And I probably used pieces of that balsa all the way up into the 80s.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I knew guys that were getting it out of old lifeboats, life rafts.
McEntee, that's where he got his.
Hey, who was the guy that used to launch Bob Gialdini? He was a fellow from Wisconsin, from Milwaukee.
Peter. I can't think of the guy's last name, but he was on the memorial service this afternoon. He's, of course, Mario Rondinelli was his flying buddy, you know.
That's who I'm thinking. Didn't Mario Rondinelli, he built a built-up wing, but he sheeted the wings with balsa, right?
The Venus, yeah. The Venus was a built-up, fully sheeted wing. And in 1964 at the Nationals, he hit a garbage can or something during a practice flight and ripped the outboard wing off. And overnight he glued the wing back on and put everything back together and took second place to Solhavy the next day in the final. Oh. And Scarinzi was third with the Blue Angel.
Yeah, the Blue Angel. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Well, I'm in my early, when I came back to the sport, I knew a fellow from just north of Milwaukee, and he had one of Rondinelli's airplanes. I didn't know it at that time, but it was a Stiletto, and I'm sure it was one of his airplanes because it was really, really light, but it was a sheeted wing, built up sheeted wing.
A Stiletto?
Yeah. Huh. And he had, you know, those gold-colored Fox 35s in it?
Yeah, the anniversary special. I had a few of those.
That sucker runs good. It's one of the best running Fox I ever had.
Well, that's an anomaly. That's an oxymoron, a good running Fox, you know, but okay.
Yeah, I know.
Listen, I still use Foxes. I cut them up for tip weight, you know?
Well, you know,
what a horrible
the thing of it is I remember in 57, I had my McCoy, my 35 Redhead.
Yeah.
And thank heavens I had Dick Williams talk to me about how to run that engine without destroying it.
Yeah.
And it was a fine running engine, you know, because I did it exactly the way he told me how to do it.
Yeah, McCoy could do some real work on that. He was the wizard on those engines.
Yeah. Well, but guys would show up at the field. They'd have. See, I think I got my McCoy 35 on sale for $395. You know.
You overpaid.
Say what?
You overpaid about
that. And but guys, Fox was $12.95 in those days.
Yeah.
I was paying for my hobby off my paper route, so $12.95 was, you know, like $1,295 to me at that time.
Yeah.
So I always had this huge lust on for a Fox 35, but guys would show up with them, and then I'd see how they'd run compared to my McCoy. And I was glad I didn't have one.
Yeah, the McCoys, when they were set up right, they were an exceptionally good engine. I mean, they weren't long-lived because of the metallurgy, but they were really good running engine. I know the Kostecki ran the 40 for years, and he had very good luck with it, you know. So,
well, I wound up with I still have it, a McCoy 40 with the lightning bolt on it.
Mm-hmm.
Set up by Tom Lay, and he hardens the pistons in it.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the few McCoys that you can run his rework. You can run a muffler on it without hurting it.
Didn't he learn a lot of what he did on the McCoys from Dick McCoy? Yeah, thought so.
Yeah, but that lightning bolt 40, I remember I had it in an Electra. I took it up to the Northwest Regionals. Oh shucks, this was in the probably right around 94, 95, somewhere in there, maybe 96. Anyway, in that time frame, I took it up there, and I'm at that age too, Bob. I can't remember the fellow's name.
CRS.
Yeah, was an icon in the Pacific Northwest, and he was known for he would fly an airplane for a season or two, and then he'd give it to a young or an up and comer or whatever, and he'd show up with his new airplane. But anyway, he was also very knowledgeable about stunt, and you know, he was one of the icons in the Pacific Northwest.
Who was this?
I'm trying to remember his name. Dark haired, had real hairy legs. He always wore these shorts, and he had more hair on his legs than you and I got on our heads total.
Well,
anyway,
that's not saying much,
I know, but back a couple of years back. But anyway, I'll think of it when this conversation's all over. I'll think of his name. But anyway, I was flying that Electra.
What airplane was he known for?
Oh shoot, he liked to fly smoothies. He flew just about everything. He wasn't known for one
Don McClave.
Huh?
You're not talking about Don McClave.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, he knew what he was talking about motor-wise and stuff like that. He was very knowledgeable.
Great guy.
Yeah, he was. Anyway, I'm flying this Electra, and I didn't have a muffler on it because I just didn't have one for it. I just got it and put it in there 2 weeks before. So I'm flying classic with this Electra with this McCoy 40 redhead in there. And that sucker would just growl, And I got done with the flight, and I'm packing the plane back to the flight line. And Don walks up to me and he says, "John, what engine you got in? That thing sounds really healthy." And I turn it over and let him see that redhead. He says, "I'll be damned."
He was a great friend. I'll tell you a story. I used to practice when I went out to VSC. Remember, I had that Caprice I used to fly out there.
Oh yeah.
When I first brought that out there, Don and I would get together and we'd practice all week long together. We just got along practicing. So I'd launch his airplane, he'd launch mine. We'd critique each other. And he was just a great guy.
He was, yeah.
Yeah, he was a sweetheart of a guy. So at any rate, I flew the Caprice, and I was real happy with it right from the get-go. It flew very well, And I didn't want to change anything because it was working so well,
Yeah.
I had the adjustable horn and everything in there. And he said,
"You didn't want the magic to leak out."
Yeah, I didn't want anything to change,
Yeah.
So he goes to me, he says, he said, "That thing flies great." He said, "But I want to fly it too." He says, "It flies great." He said, "But I think if you move that elevator horn up, got a little more elevator movement, you could even make it fly better." I said, "I don't know, Don, this is a pretty good airplane, And so this went on for about 3 years. And I was doing real well with the airplane,
Mm-hmm.
And Don finally came up to me in one practice session with a 440 wrench. And he says, "You're not flying that airplane again until you move that elevator." And I laughed. I said, "Okay." So I marked it so I could get it back exactly where it was. Move the elevator up, move the slider up about, I guess almost a 16th of an inch, which is a pretty healthy move.
Yeah.
I flew the airplane, landed, grabbed the wrench, and moved it up again.
My fondest memory is I went up there and I just done the plans for Palmer's smoothie for Brodak.
Mm-hmm.
And the kid had come out and he cornered me. He says, "Bob," he said, "John, you do the plans for Bob's airplane." He says, "Why is the wing so thick?" I said, "Because that's the way Bob said that's the way his favorite version was." And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Bob told me that he had two of them. He had the first one had the derivative of the Hercules airfoil for the wind. That's why it's called a smoothie, And I said the second one, no, he didn't like it, and he wound up on that world tour or whatever he went on.
Yeah.
And Vico, whatever his name was, he wanted to kit it, and he published it while he's gone, and he published the wrong plan.
Wow. And
he got back and he was kitting it, setting up the kit that way, and he got back and he said, "I don't want, this is not the plane I want kitted." And he said, "Well, it's already done. Just get used to it. That's the way it's going to be." So
it was Henry Engineering.
Yeah, Henry Engineering. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so he said he had two of them. He said he painted them identically, so he put them in his car, in the trunk of his car. And those days a lot of cars had huge trunks.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd go to Santa Ana where they're
Yeah, we have huge trucks.
Speak for yourself, Bob. Anyway, he'd go to Santa Ana and they'd be flying. And he'd look around and he'd, check for the wind and that. If it was a nice day, he'd pull out the one with it was a regular NACA 4-digit airfoil is what it was. And he'd pull that one out and fly that one because it handled better. If it was windy, he'd pull out the other one because it was marginally better in the wind.
Right.
And so he would, and apparently nobody caught on to the fact that he was switching planes.
Well, this guy's got to have some secrets,
Well, yeah.
The heck?
And so anyway, so here I'm up there, and here's Don McClave comes up, and he's just certain that we fudged the airfoil. I said, look, I took it right off of his hand-drawn plans. He says, well, you still have them? I said, no, I sent them back, but I've made a copy of them. So I do have a copy. He says, can I have a copy of them? I said, you betcha. So I got home and I mailed him a copy. Never heard another word about about that smoothie being fudged after that. Yeah, because he had, it was on butcher paper, white butcher paper.
Oh, I just remembered that story I was going to tell you, and
okay.
It concerns Bob Palmer. We were talking about Billy winning, and we were talking about Palmer. Well, when that happened in '59, all of Billy's friends came up to him and grabbed him and put him up on their shoulders and walked him off the field after the Walker Trophy fly-off. He never got a chance to talk to Bob Palmer afterwards. Never. Until VSC 8, where Palmer showed up. Remember, and he flew out there that year. So anyway, Billy hadn't spoken to Palmer or seen him in person since 1959, when he
holy smokes,
when he won the Walker Trophy fly. So Billy's out in the middle of the field, and of course, everybody kind of gravitates around Billy. He's holding court there, and people are asking him questions, and he's talking. And there's a whole bunch of people there. And Bob Palmer walks up to Billy and excuses himself like the gentleman he was. He says, Billy, may I have a moment? Billy said, sure. And he did it in front of everybody, right? This is how classy Bob Palmer was. He could have taken Billy off to the side and said this, but he did it in front of everybody. He said, Billy, we never had a chance to talk after that 1959 Walker Trophy fly-off. He says, I just wanted to tell you, I wanted to congratulate you in person, and I wanted to tell you there was nobody in the world was going to beat you that day. You were absolutely the best flyer on the planet that day, in front of everybody. Now, was that a class thing to do?
Yes, that's awesome.
That's Bob. Yeah, that's Bob Palmer. That's the way he is.
You guys, can I just clean house a second? Let me just catch up a little bit. We have a guy out there in the chat box. He says, hello, everyone. His name is Charlie Williams. Hi, Charlie.
Hi, Charlie.
And I want to say hi to Peter, who came in, and Gary, and hi, Tryan.
Hello.
And right now we have 9 concurrent viewers, and we have 5 likes. Thank you, everybody, for giving us the thumbs up. Appreciate that very much. And don't forget about the super chat, and that helps us out. And don't forget to share and subscribe. Thank you very much. What was that, Bob?
Super chat.
Super chat is a way to donate to the channel.
Oh, okay.
You can donate any denomination or whatever you want. Of course, YouTube takes a good chunk of that, but they do leave us a little bit of crumbs. But it does help us out.
Providing a service too, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Bob, I've had this huge desire to build Bob's Thunderbird 1, but not the one with the racing hood on it, but the one with the radial cowl. I've got the plans for that. I think a friend of yours drew those plans up some years back, and I can't remember his name right off the head.
Yeah.
But he drew up the Thunderbird 1 and the radial cowl version as well. So
that was a beautiful airplane.
It was. That plane still exists in England.
Really?
Yeah, he left it there, and somebody, was it 7, 8, 10 years ago, they announced that they had rebuilt it, refinished it, and everything. It's still there.
I never saw it in person, but of course I saw a lot of pictures of it.
Yeah, Yeah.
Interesting.
John,
Yeah.
you're talking about those having two planes with different characteristics inside of them, and I was just thinking about the same thing just recently. What happened at this year's Nats? One day I was flying and the wind was picking up a little bit, and I said, "Man, the plane is not turning as well as I want it to, or as well as I liked it." And Bob was there, and he said, "You know, what do you have to lose? Just make a change, try it out, and see what happens, right?" So I moved my battery back, and it flew. It was instant change, right? Just boom, I was back in business. At which point
Right.
I was thinking, like, well, when the wind is calm, I kind of like the more forward CG.
Sure. Yeah.
Because it turns just as fast, and it tracks a little bit better. I have a little bit more pull in the lines, especially on the top of the maneuvers. But however, when the wind starts to blow, I prefer it to with the battery back a little bit.
And you get more stick pressure when it's really windy. You get a lot of stick pressure buildup. It gets harder to turn the airplane, in the wind. And you move the CG aft, it worked better. Well, that's the reason I use swept forward trailing edge airplanes. Even though some people don't like them, it reduces the stick load in heavy wind. The airplane turns in the wind just like it turns in the calm. So
Really?
Yeah, because you're not moving the center of pressure as far aft from the center of gravity when you deploy the flaps. When you put the flaps down on a straight trailing edge airplane, you're moving the center of pressure aft. You're changing the shape of the airfoil from a symmetrical airfoil to a high undercamber airfoil.
Yes.
And moves the center of pressure aft, but the center of gravity stays forward. So essentially, you're getting an over nose heavy airplane that you have to lever around corners. When you get windy, you get all that stick pressure buildup. Feels like the lines are going to snap. But when you sweep the trailing edge forward, it moves the center of pressure less aft. The average is left, moving it less aft on the wing, and consequently, the airplane doesn't feel as nose heavy in a corner, and it doesn't have that stick pressure buildup. Now, some people say that the other things that come along with a swept forward trailing edge are they don't like. Like Paul's never liked them because he said they're much harder to trim for yaw. And there may be something to that. I've had some that trimmed out right away and some that took a while. But you're right. If you move the battery back and then make notes to yourself when it gets windy, how far back to move it, don't be afraid to make changes. That's why we have adjustable stuff,
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, because I think I'm gonna very much end up with a dual setup.
Yeah.
A setup for nice weather, calm weather, and a setup for windy weather.
Yeah.
And for the windy weather, I might move the battery backwards and maybe do a tiny adjustment on the lead outs. And in calm weather, I just can do, with a more forward battery. So
you should take notes when you're out practicing. When you practice with the wind and you find the setup you want with the lead outs and everything, make notes so you can go right to that and then go right back when it calms down. That's an advantage that most people don't take. They guess at it. Where if you practice and then make notes, you can find it immediately and be comfortable with what you got.
Yeah. That being said, Bob, I never had issues with cornering in a wind at all. Because or the hard pull in a wind, because I have more surface area on aft of the fuselage, which the harder the wind, the more it pushes the nose inside.
Right.
It reduces the line.
But
overall, it's not pulling me after the plane. I'm very comfortable.
Because when you're flying in wind and you're downwind, like you said, you have wind is blowing on the aft end of the airplane, which has more area and back there because of the vertical fin. And it's like a weather vane because the center of gravity is so far forward. And then the wind blows on the tail and pushes it out and pushes the nose in towards you. That's right. Yep. But, some people don't like losing tension either. And the other thing it does, though, is not only does it yaw the airplane to the left downwind, since the majority of the area of the vertical fin is above the vertical center of gravity, it also pushes the airplane over. So you're getting a left yaw and a right roll downwind.
Yep.
A right yaw and left roll upwind in heavy wind.
Yeah.
What I like to do is I balance the area. If you ever notice my airplanes have big wheel pants on them, like the Saturn had those monster wheel pants. And the reason that airplane only flew good in the wind with the wheel pants on, because it balanced the effect of the wind blowing the nose in at me downwind. It kept the area low and forward, balanced the area up and aft, and the airplane just stayed out there.
On my plane, what I did when I was building it, I did an analysis in CAD. And after I added that fin on the belly of the plane, like Ted Thancher is doing underneath his planes.
The ventral fin.
Yep. I did an analysis on the surface area and in CAD, and it came up to be placed about 1/16 of an inch above the center line of the wing. And it's just dead nuts on a line with the wing.
You ever notice Igor's airplane? You know, his airplane's got that balanced amount of you know, the rudder for the G kind of look has got that balanced amount of air. But also, he believes in, and I strongly agree, because if you ever notice, a lot of my airplanes are jet style airplanes, and they got a lot of cab forward area, and he believes in a lot of frontal area for the same reason, to balance, you know, the amount of, you don't get the yaw in downwind. It balances the push of the wind downwind. It keeps the airplane out there equally. It doesn't move.
Oh, I see that. However, I kind of like my setup, you know, because in a wind is very, very comfortable. I flew it in hard wind. It was very comfortable. I know it's not pulling the bejesus out of me at all.
Everybody's got to be happy with what they're flying, Dorn. Just, you know, some people fly things that I fly. I said, how do they possibly fly this? And they fly my airplane. They say, how do you possibly fly this? You know,
exactly.
You know, so it's all finding something that suits you.
Yeah. I really wish you were well at the Nats this year, because I want you to fly the plane.
Yeah, well, I would have liked to, but I'll tell you, you wouldn't want me to have flown your airplane at that Nationals, because I didn't have any sleep for 4 days. I couldn't sleep, pain in my arm, and I was in a Joel Costantino's trailer, and he had a recliner there for me, and I could only find like one comfortable position. And when I fell asleep and moved even a fraction of an inch, the shooting pains down my arm woke me up. So I got like 2 hours of sleep in 4 days.
Oh my God! No,
That's why I quit. That's why I bailed out. It wasn't
I know that.
I could play with the pain. That wasn't the issue. The issue was I couldn't. I would have fallen asleep during my flight.
Yeah.
Wow.
No. I understand that absolutely. You know, I know that's why you left, and I felt bad because of it. I really
miserable all week.
You know, I was enjoying my time with you over there. The little bit of time that we spent. Anyway.
Well, I'm sure I wasn't the easiest guy to be around at the National, because I was miserable.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to do what you have to do. But anyway, something about just putting what I have in my plane. I have like an L-shaped rails, and that are like on the four corner, and the battery just slides in between them. And in the front of the L-shaped rails, I glued a piece of balsa over there, like a 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch. So the battery is going to slide over until it bottoms out over there. That's kind of the way it works. So I'm thinking about just taking, after I talked to you and I moved the battery back about 3/4 of an inch, I really liked it. And I glue permanently another piece of balsa, a 3/4 inch piece of balsa over there. So I repositioned the battery.
Yeah, you can just move it to one of the other stops. Yeah,
exactly. So what I want to do now, I want to take that 3/4 of an inch balsa out and maybe build some kind of a magnetic stuff in there, so I can use I can take the piece in and out as I need to. So if I put it in with a magnet, it's going to stick in there, put the battery in, I'm back in business.
There you go.
And the one thing I've noticed is, like, I tried to reset the lead outs. It almost didn't make any difference on the lead out position, the CG shift.
Some airplanes do and some don't. Some are very lead out critical to where the CG is, the pitch CG, and some are not. And that is, airplanes are kind of like people; they're all different,
Yeah,
different.
And
you
personalities.
You could build 10 airplanes, the exact same design. You could build 10 of them, and no two will fly exactly alike. Now they'll all have similar characteristics, but you're going to find that they're like twins in a family. They are different. There's going to be differences, because we have so many little things that we can't account for. There's so many little chance blueprinting things that may or may not occur in airplane to airplane. We're talking about thousandths of an inch here, thousandths of an inch there, and it all affects the way the airplane flies.
Mm-hmm.
True enough. Bob, do you know Steve Barry?
Steve who?
Barry.
Steve Barry. I know the name.
I was wondering if he called you. I've been working with him a little bit. He's doing the lion's share of the work, but he's trying to do a semi-scale stunner of the OV-10 Bronco.
Oh yeah, that's where I saw the name. We actually did a little exchanging of thread on the thread. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he had a question for you. I don't know if he's following here or not, but on your twins, you used one battery, didn't you, in a Y harness?
Yeah, I have one battery and I have a harness that goes out to.
Okay.
Yeah.
If he called you, he's gonna be wanting to know how you set that up.
There's really nothing to it, Just
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I know. There's nothing to it if you've done it, but if you haven't done it, then
the only thing is that twins have got a lot. They seem simple, and to a degree they are. I mean, to do a glow twin, as you know from working with Gordon and everything, that's an amazing accomplishment he's had to be able to get glow twins to work, because getting one engine to run right all the time is almost impossible. Getting two to run right all the time is impossible.
Yeah.
Getting two electric motors to run the same all the time, there's nothing to that.
Yeah.
He's
He's pretty good at engines. He's an old combat flyer too.
great.
And he sits there. He would sit there. We'd run and say the outboard engine or the inboard engine quit. Maybe 30 seconds before the outboard, and he would work the fuel loads, and that till he got it. And by golly, he got it to where the suckers would go boom, boom. It's amazing.
Nice thing about the electrics, they both stop at exactly the same time.
Yeah.
There was a guy, I forgot who it was that told me this, but somebody did data logging on a single engine, a single motor airplane, electric flight. And he data logged one flight and then flew the next flight with the same exact setting. And apparently you can actually tell how many times the motor turned. It was, there's something on there that gives you that exact number. I haven't researched that, but he said the propeller turned 6 revolutions more on one flight than the other.
Wow.
6 revolutions, so.
What a horrible
That's pretty
precision.
exact.
So they're not perfect, obviously.
Possibly be.
That's pretty. That's That's kind of anal, isn't it?
Hey guys, let me introduce the Grinch. The Grinch showed up, and he has something he wants to say.
Who's the Grinch?
Yeah, that would be me. That's what I put in my name this time. If you click on my
The
picture.
Grinch. Well, it's appropriate for Christmas. We got Santa Claus and we have the Grinch.
Yeah, but he's not green. He's got to be green.
Actually, Bob, you're the reason I'm here. I've got a question for you, and maybe you can help me with this, and maybe you can't.
I'm having a hard time hearing you. You're kind of echoing.
I'm echoing.
A little better.
Okay, let me get a little closer to my mic here. So I was making the last run to Marshall Busby's son's storage unit.
Yeah.
We're down to the last little bit of stuff in there, and in there I found a Tom Morris Cavalier fuselage kit, and then we found a bunch of foam cores. Some of them were combat cores, but in that box there was 2 sets of triple cord foam wings.
Yeah, I did some wings for him.
Okay, so they were not sheeted. These were not sheeted. They were just triple cord foam wings. But there was no tag on them. There was no explanation of what they were. I'm wondering if there's any way, if you recall.
If there was no name on the top of the cradle, then I didn't cut them, because every wing I ever cut, I put the name on the top of the cradle so people know what it is.
You did.
Yeah, those weren't mine then.
Well, in all fairness, I only pulled out one panel from each set. I didn't inspect all the way around.
Yeah, one on the top cradle piece that encapsulates the core. I always put what the name of the airplane is, and then top right, and the other panel is top left. And I always write that on every wing I've ever done.
Every wing you've ever done. Okay, well that'll help because I do believe I saw top right on them, but the two that I picked up, they weren't. I didn't pick up both sets for one wing and look all the way around. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So there could have been another identifying marker on there. But the reason I thought of you or somebody else to pour stuff out, Marshall was the kind of guy that bought, everything he needed to build a plane. And I found this Tom Morris Cavalier fuselage kit, and it's got all the molded parts in it. It's a full fuselage, but we did not find a wing kit anywhere for that box. And then I saw those cores, and the first thing I thought of was you. So,
again, you might want to look on the top cradle and see if there's a name. Then if it is, I cut them and it'll tell you what it is. If there's no name there, I didn't do them. Somebody else did them.
Okay, who might have done that?
Tom Dixon or John Duncan.
Okay.
If it goes back far enough, Scott Smith or John Pointer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And just as a ballpark to try to help Tony value these things, what is just a triple core foam core worth without sheeting or anything?
What are they worth, or what can you get?
Well, yeah, I mean what do you charge for a triple core?
I get $40 for a set of cores cored out.
How much?
$40.
$40. Okay.
Yeah, that's for the core cored out. No spar, no leading edge, nothing else. Everything is kind of a la carte as you add on. But for the raw foam, cut, sanded, round. Does this have round leading edges or flat leading edges?
Bob, I didn't look that hard, and
round leading edges, I might have done them because I do only round leading edges. Some people do flat leading edges, and you put a block on and carve it to shape. I don't do that.
Okay. I was in between doctor's appointments. I had one at 9:30 and one at 1:30, and I ran into Nashville to meet Tony because he's trying to get the stuff out of the storage unit by the end of the year. We were trying to just inventory the last little bit of stuff he had. And I had not seen this box until today. This was a box under a bunch of other boxes that, like I said, it had several sets of combat cores, but two sets. There's definitely stunt cores, triple cord.
Yeah. Did you know who else he might talk to? Because he was good friends with Randy Smith, right?
I believe he was, yeah.
He had somebody cutting wings for him too. I think it was Ronnie Farmer. I'm pretty sure he did wings, or somebody down there did wings for him. So it might have been something from Randy.
Okay. I mean, I'll see him again, probably after the holidays, but I think I'm gonna call him and tell him to put those aside, so that I should have brought them home today. I don't know why I didn't. I just wasn't thinking, but I think those need to be further investigated so we can find out exactly what they are, and to find out if they go with that fuselage kit that he has from Morris.
Yeah.
Odds are one of them do.
Then he can put them together and sell it as a kit.
Right.
I hate to see them get lost in the shuffle somewhere because I know they're for a stunt plane. So.
What's Peter working on there? Hello,
Hey,
Peter.
Hey, Peter.
He's got his mic off.
But he heard us.
Oh, he heard it. Okay.
That's the Saginaw.
What do you work on, the Saginaw? Sure.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How's it coming along, Pete?
Slow. Now I'm just trying to, now that I'm looking at them, like getting ready, I guess, to sheet the wings. And I'm gathering the sheeting is over the leading edge square, and then sand it to shape, so I don't end up with a pointy leading edge.
Pointy can be fun.
No, it's you know what I'm dealing.
Yeah. You know, speaking of pointy leading edges, Peter, back in 60, maybe 59 or 60, Palmer and Southwick and Bob Heron had become convinced that they wanted the inboard portion of the wing to stall before the tips. And the way they were doing it was they were leaving the wing for about 12 inches up from the fuselage pointy, and then blending into the airfoil shape as it went out from there. That lasted one season.
Hey, Steve.
Hey, how's it going?
Is that Steve? Oh, my goodness.
Get the jar ready.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Not feeling well today, Steve? You're acting subdued.
I've been fighting a migraine since yesterday.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I don't get them very often anymore. Once in a great while. It's probably been 6 months, but I couldn't get rid of it yesterday at all. About 3:30 this morning, I finally fell asleep, and it was kind of tapering off.
Well, you're going to hate me, Steve. I haven't had a headache of any kind in like 50, almost 60 years.
No kidding.
I don't know what it is. I don't get headaches. When I was a kid, I did, but I haven't had a headache in like 50 or 60 years.
It's probably you don't get them, you just give them.
Oh, your kids are probably grown, Bob.
Very good. Take $1 out of the jar.
I can't laugh because my head will explode.
Let me tell you some jokes then.
Don't anybody play any Slim Whitman if we don't want his head to explode.
Really?
Well, hey, Bob, thanks for your help there. I'm gonna get those cores, and I'll get some more information. We'll measure them, and I'll get them and show them, so maybe we can help identify them.
Yeah, I have a hunch they may be from Randy.
Okay. All right. Well, I got to punch out. I may be back later. Thanks, Bob.
You go, guys.
Yeah, I might take care.
So, Bob, how much snow did you get at your place?
About 10 inches.
You got it pretty good. From what I was seeing when they were
He had a big plow, and he comes up and just does everybody's driveway. And so, only thing I had to do was pull the cars back and just slow blow in front of the cars, and then it was all done. It took me like half an hour.
Yeah, I was watching at first. They were saying that your area was going to get like 18.
Just north of us did get 18, 20.
Yeah, that's what they were saying. I'm like, oh, it's going to be.
I'm just on the bottom edge of the Pocono Mountains. We're just at where they flatten out into the Lehigh Valley.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I knew it was close there, and I'm like, wow, 18 to 20 inches. That's a lot of snow.
It is.
10 inches is a lot of snow, but.
Yeah, that's good. My dog loves it. My dog will chase snowballs until she absolutely drops. She'll just sit there, hours.
Was it a wet snow or was it?
No, it's a very dry snow, but after, the first day of the sun being on it, melting, it got so we could pack it into snowballs,
Okay. Yeah, last week we got that really wet snow that weighed about 30 pounds of shovel load.
Yeah.
Jeez. Snowblower hardly go through it, stuff like that.
Yeah, it comes out of slush. It doesn't.
Yeah. Once, I don't know why the snowblower must beat the water out of it or something.
Huh.
Because it comes out all slushy like that.
Yeah.
Well, we got 1.5 inches.
In Utah?
Where I live, I'm on the edge of the desert. It's the first moisture we've had since last February.
Jesus.
How much snow do you get there every year?
Where I'm at,
Yeah.
maybe 5 inches, but up in the mountains in the Wasatch Range there, where they got all the ski resorts, they'll get 102 inches.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's real fine snow. It's powder. They call it the finest powder in the world.
Wow. Sounds like something you get in Miami, the finest powder in the world.
Oh man, that's
well,
funny.
the skiers like it because you see them going down when it first snows. They go up there en masse because all you see is from about their waist up, because they're sinking in that far. There's a big plume of snow flying up behind them. And they're just having a ball.
When I drove up to Seattle to get Robbie, or I flew out and drove back with Robbie, and then we drove back out again. It was amazing to me to see that they have actual permanent roadblock things that come down to block the road off when it snows in the mountains. They just stop you, and you have to go back to the next town and sequester until the roads are open.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They're doing it too.
It's like my buddy from
I got stuck in Rawlins, Wyoming once.
Yeah.
I got stuck in Rawlins, Wyoming once, heading back east from here on I-80 for 3 days, and there was nothing but a truck stop that we could get to. And fortunately, I had a truck and a camper with plenty of gas in the tanks, so I was able to stay warm and all that. But that was quite an experience for 3 days.
Well, listen, how long does it take you to get back to the North Pole?
About 15 minutes with the sleigh. I mean, you got to realize it runs at about Mach 7. That's the only way I can get around the world in one night.
Yeah.
Dropping off all those toys.
And eating all them cookies.
Well, that's what got me the man I am,
Yeah, my friend from Switzerland, he came here and we took him to what they call Boyne Mountain. It's a ski resort here. And he goes, "You think that's a mountain?" he says. And I said, "Well, it's the biggest ones we have here in Michigan, But when I was over there in, I don't know, one weekend, we were headed to the Alps for something, and we come around the corner and there's an avalanche.
Wow.
In the snow. He's like, "Oh," I heard him say, "Oh shit," and I'm looking around. Yeah. Well, that's what he said though. I said, "Oh shoot," but he points, and all the snow is just moving down the side of this mountain, and it's covering houses and stuff, and then it just comes across the road and just keeps right on going, But it was probably 10 foot deep or better.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, it's just a little one." Well, all these cars stop, and they get out with these little shovels like they give to the military and they're out there shoveling. And I'm like, "They're going to shovel all that away?" He goes, "Just one lane." He goes,
wow.
He goes, "Otherwise," he goes, "this road will be blocked for days until they get somebody up here to clear it."
It's just a little avalanche, so the people who died didn't die of anything serious.
Yeah, yeah, it was, he was kind of surprised because he said that wasn't an avalanche place or whatever. That we got to some other places in the mountains, and they had like big fences and stuff to block it, slow it down. But everybody there's in the military, and I guess they take a howitzer on a helicopter, and they fly around and they shoot the mountain and make
it come down. Yeah.
Make it come down before it gets too deep and stuff. But he thought, he was telling me that he was a paratrooper in there, but I don't know. Whenever he went in, he was on that detail looking for avalanches and stuff like that.
Yike.
But they have some big mountains there. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, sure. How about it?
I was thinking about going and flying this weekend, but it's like 11 degrees outside. It just, I mean, it came from yesterday, it was like 30, 40 degrees, 50 degrees outside, and tomorrow's going to be 11.
Hell, we're going to be warmer. It's supposed to get to 40 here.
Well,
wow.
They were calling for 48, and now they lowered it down to 40.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's good building weather.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What's everybody building? What are you building, Charles?
Well, you know what? I've been working on this plane. I'll show you a picture of it. I didn't build it, but I've been preparing it to be a test bed. I put a K-77 with a tune pipe, and here.
You got to blink at the right time.
You guys see it?
It's just laziness.
It's blinking.
It's a blinking impact.
Yeah, blinking airplane.
I don't know why it's blinking.
Because it's turning counterclockwise.
Blinking.
Let me try it again.
Well, that's Paul Walker's impact.
Well, it's his design. Let's try this again. Okay, here we go. And application window. Maybe that's what the problem is. No, my entire screen. Let's try this again.
There it is.
There it is.
Yeah.
So it just took me some time to get the engine in there, and the and I did some repairs to it. The I don't have a picture of the bottom, but the bottom is completely covering the tune pipe. You just have just a stinger sticking out, and some of the hardware was coming loose. It's an old plane, and but that's what I'm going to be flying for a while to try to figure out the right prop and RPM and length of the pipe and everything else I need to figure out. And this is what I'm going to put in the plane that I am building, which is a modified Strega I call Precious Balsa. And this is I'm pretty excited about this because I feel it's making some progress. At least I'll be working on the power system.
What is an Impact 7?
Well, I think it's because it's modified and covers up the whole pipe tunnel, unlike the regular Impact.
The name on the wing there, it looks like Impact 7.
Yeah, I know. I'm not the builder. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I think that's stylized Impact.
I get it, but it looks like Impact 7.
Yeah.
I like that.
It might have been his 7th Impact that he made.
Well, that's possible.
Yeah, so
maybe it's a USA Arma.
Yeah.
Charles, there's some information out there for almost any tune pipe motor setup that you want to have, as of like what fuel, what nitro, what pipe length, everything. You can find all that information. I think it's listed.
What engine are you using?
It's a K-77. And I have a Casminato tune pipe in there. The pipe is beautiful. I mean, it's a shame to cover it up. It's a really beautiful pipe.
Yeah, I was going to say, you want to open up that bottom and make sure you get a lot of air through there, because otherwise you'll burn that carbon fiber pipe up.
Okay. I mean, there's an outlet. There's an outlet on each side of the fuselage and an outlet on the bottom. And
you want to block up the exits on the side of the fuselage. And you want to put a little lip at the back that sucks the air through the tunnel. Because if you put stuff forward of the rear exit, it'll actually lower the pressure and you won't get as much cooling. You want to just have one at the front intake and one at the very back exit. If you have anything on the side, it's going to actually take away from the scavenging of the heat. Don't ask me how I know.
Ted Fancher found that out too on that pond scum.
Okay. All righty.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to build like a little.
Putting holes in will work no matter where you put them, but that's not the case. Some holes will actually, be a deficiency, to the thing,
Well, you got to think of air like you do water. And if you were trying to push water down a hose and you drilled two holes in the side of the pipe before your faucet, what was going to happen? All that's going to go out there, and you're going to get less out the back.
Right. I had that problem on the Saturn when we first put the tune pipe in there. We were overheating, and I said, I got all kinds of cooling holes. And Dean Papa said, seal them up. And we sealed up the ones in the front and left the one in the back open. Ran cool.
And you might want to put like a little fairing or something in there to where the air goes over and causes
a wicker bill.
Pardon me?
A wicker bill.
Yeah.
Yeah, it causes, if the air is diverted right in front of the lip before the opening, it causes a low pressure area and it sucks the air through. It's a wicker bill.
Yeah, you can suck a lot of air through something more than you can push it through.
Right. Exactly right.
All right.
You can triple, quadruple the amount of air if you suck it through than you can.
Totally agree.
You know, that's like, I tell people, they're like, well, why is that? I said, okay, put a fan in your window and have it blow in. Close all the windows but one in the other end of the house. Stand out there and see how much air is coming out that window. There'll be nothing. Now do it the opposite way. Turn that fan around and blow it out the window and go back to that window and see how much air is going in that thing.
Yeah, exactly. Very good, Steve.
Yep.
Headache and all.
Mm-hmm.
So just to clarify, the pipe tunnel, there's a hole in the back on the bottom as well, and it's in the same position on the ones that are on the sides. So you have 3 holes right before the stinger, 2 on the side and 1 below.
One's on the side. Block those up and just have the
Okay. All right. Okay.
And just make it like a little cover going on.
All right.
Howdy.
And that'll cause low pressure. And
There's Phil.
Interesting. Hey, well, thanks for the heads up, you guys. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Santi cords.
Yeah, I might even just try some duct tape just to see how the comparison.
You can take even like a piece of cardboard and make a little fairing that, go around that hole. So
It's a little, you look at race cars, how they have like a little lip there. It's called a wicker bill, and it diverts the air. It causes a low pressure area, and it sucks the air out. Then, if you have the air just going, you have a flush hole.
That's all right.
The bottom flush with the hole, it won't cause a low pressure. But if you put a little tiny, little wicker bill, they call it, a little fairing.
Yeah. Matter of fact, it has that around all 3 holes has a wicker bell.
There you go.
All 3 have that.
Yeah, but holes from the side will, will make that worse. So all you do is exit at the back.
Yeah.
Bob, even if they're on the same area on the back side, they're all kind of, from what Charles is saying, they're all aligned side by side.
Right.
Exactly. In the same area. They're not in the front or one big one on the back.
He's going around it this way.
Right.
I would think the 3 of them would pretty much promote a lot of, airflow through the tunnel.
I kind of have to agree with Tran on that because they're all back at the same area. So that's creating that low pressure back there, sucking it all out.
Yeah. As long as they're by each other, that some of them isn't further down.
If they're further forward, they're sucking it out.
Yes.
Cooling going behind it.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah.
You got to cause the suction.
Yeah.
And just having holes does nothing for you. But having something that diverts the air, so when the air is thrown down, actually, and you look at the bottom of the airplane, it has a little wicker bill. Air gets thrown down and causes a low pressure area just behind it, and that's what sucks the air out of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Now, another thing we're doing with the airplanes, at least I'm doing, and some people are. I'm cutting the only cooling in my airplane. I have the inlet in the front. And the only cooling is in the outlet in the back of the airplane. The tail of the airplane, tail cone, is open. And I have holes in all the formers, and top and bottom. And the air goes in the front, goes up over the battery, and over the ESP, through the fuselage. And because the back of that outlet is flush, as the wind rushes by, it causes a low pressure and sucks everything out.
Yep.
I've got on my Vanguard. I've got the air coming out on the bottom and above, and a little area above the top of the wing. I'm diverting it with the wing, so that it's basically I'm running about almost 1.5 to 2 times the area, maybe that I've got air coming in, going out. But I didn't run it all the way through the fuselage.
As long as you're pulling the air out past what you're wanting to cool.
Yeah. Well, I used Trayan's idea and reset my battery box up, like you mentioned, with some aluminum angle there. And it looks a lot cleaner than it did before.
It's probably a lot easier to build too.
Oh yeah, much easier, much simpler, and everything's going in. You know, the cowl. There's no cowl on the bottom, but the whole cockpit and everything tilts up and pulls off, so the whole top of the airplane is open to the battery, and the ESC and everything is right there open.
Yeah, so, and it's easy to build, easy to use, easy all around.
Yeah.
By the way,
you said something about my skinny wing. I have to let you know that this airplane, I started designing it in 2011 with that wing.
Okay.
So it's basically the airfoil that I developed that wound up in Walter Umland's Sakatumi.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's cool. It was very nice.
So you're home tonight, huh?
Yeah. Get back home for a little while. It's crazy. This time of year, though, I have to run. I got a lot of friends around the area, and we can't all get together. So we get together in little groups, you know. So we started about Wednesday and started catching up with people. Of course, one of my best friends, Wade, his birthday was the 13th. Can you imagine being 13 years old on Friday the 13th? I did not want to be him. Oh no, he's always said the 13th is lucky. I told him, well, not for me. I fell off the bucket truck the 13th, and it nearly killed me. So,
oh man,
I don't care for Friday the 13th. I stay home with the sheets up. You know,
I always said it is. I always win stuff on Friday the 13th.
Huh. Well, I could be the only name in the pot, and I don't think I'd win. So, you know. But anyway, got a question, Bob.
Just a second. I'm going to share a screen here. Does that come up at all?
Not yet. Hey, Phil, by the way, Phil.
There it is.
Eddie, hi, Phil.
The holes in the formers.
Tell him I said hello. It's good to see you. It's good to hear from you. That is sharp, Bob.
Oh, the top formers, yeah. Or is that the
bottom? And the formers in the fuselage have holes in them too. And everything goes out the back. There's a back hole in the back. It's open. And if the air rushes past the back, because of the low pressure, it pulls everything through.
Oh, very nice.
That's a good idea.
Bob, what do you put your carbon veil down with?
What's that?
What do you put your carbon veil down with?
I don't use carbon veil anymore.
That's what was all over that plane, wasn't it?
Well, on that airplane was a test bed airplane, but I'm not using carbon veil. Those pictures were taken 8 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't use it anymore either, but I thought you must have gone back to it there or something.
No, not anymore.
Okay. Okay. Next question. You were asking last time. You said that the problem you were going to have with your twin was that the light on the timer was going to be on the fuselage, so you wouldn't be able to see it because of the nacelle.
Yeah.
You do know that's just an LED. All you got to do is run a wire.
Yeah, you can run a line out. Yeah.
Just run a wire out there. I just to test it, see if it'd work. I took mine.
The same
put 4 feet of wire on it, and it still works fine. So
yeah. I could also run it down into the simulated gear door that's going to be in the front underneath where the nacelle is. I can put it there too. So that's not going to be a problem.
Okay. I just thought I can't believe he's having a problem with that because it's just a light bulb. It's an LED. Doesn't pull enough current to even
I don't
measure.
know why not just cut a hole right through the nacelle so you can see through the nacelle?
No,
Then you got to make sure you got it trimmed so the holes line up, right?
Yeah.
That'll be, you'd call that a trim indicator.
There you go.
You were talking before about that guy Steve Berry with that OB10A.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting. I've thought about that for 50 years. Since I was in the Army, and I used to see him every day. OB10As fly over, and I've always wanted to build one. With electric, you could do it, and with the retracts and everything. The only problem would be that high tail. That scares me. I'd have to build a test bed to make sure that worked, but that would be fun.
That's what he's doing, and I believe he's got positive. He's putting some I think positive incidents in the tail to help with that. You know, you want a little down pressure on the nose. I think that's
the way to do it.
Anyway, he's moving along with it. You know, of course, you know the wing is relatively high aspect ratio, more than what we use. You know,
the OB10A.
Yeah, you look at it. You look at the 3-view on it. It's not that wide compared to its length.
Yeah, but it's not a long wing.
No, it's not a long wing.
Yeah.
But the aspect ratio is probably 6.5 to 1.
And it's constant chord too, so it makes it very easy to build.
Oh, absolutely. But you know, the if you just took it, scaled it like that, and the boom length would be like 23 inches. You know, and you know, we talked about that, about squash double. I said, you take it. You want to fool the eye. When a semi-scale, you got to fool the eye, and there's tricks you can use, you know, and explain what they were about doing it. And he came up with something. He sent me a preliminary, you know, just to look at it, and it's looking pretty good. I think he's going to have it's recognizable, very recognizable as an OV10. He's going to build a profile version first to test bed it.
What are we going to do? Use like a goldenrod or whatever and run up the back?
No, he's actually going out the center like the old, what was that old time stunt ship, the little twin boomer. Yo-yo. Like that's what he's showing right now, but
for a test bed that would be fine. But
yeah,
I'm thinking about doing it with pull system, you know, just pulleys. And
you do that, or you can use an L-shaped bell crate or bell crate in the back, driving it, and just run your elevator horns parallel to the cord of the the elevator.
Yeah.
So you're just going straight up and down. Here, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway.
It's got some interesting engineering problems, but and if I did it, I wouldn't do the OB10A. I would do that one the Canadian company is.
Yeah, that one is all. I don't think that plane's been built yet. That's all GCI. Charles got his finger up there. Wait a minute.
I'm sorry to interrupt you guys. I just want to encourage people. There's right now we have 17 concurrent viewers, and we only have 6 likes. So if everybody out there who hasn't already hit the like button would just at one time just hit the like button and get our likes up, so we can get this program elevated so that it's a recommended video for people to see, and that would help grow the channel. And don't forget the super chat, the way you can help donate to the cause as well. There's a $sign by the chat box, and also our memberships. This is all important to Sparky and I to grow this platform. So please contribute. If you can't contribute, at least hit the like. And thank you very much. I just see now we have 7 likes. Thank you. Keep it going. Just takes a second. Hit the thumbs up button. Appreciate it. All right.
Well, good. The likes are up, but nobody's home.
Bad. bad.
You want to get this recommended?
Yeah, for children. Approved for children.
Plus, you know.
Well, you know, otherwise you get coal in your sock on Christmas.
Boy, if
You ought to know.
I don't think anybody does.
That's why I don't. That's why I don't put up a sock anymore.
You don't. You have to have an elephant sock.
Bad.
Lord. So, Phil, what are you doing these days? You building anything yet, or are you thinking about it, or what?
If I ever get to spend any time here, I'm working on a humbug, trying to finish a humbug, and it's all covered and started priming on the fuselage. I got all the nitrate on it and got to start putting primer on it. Now I got to sand the primer off and then go with a coat of white and go with a little bit of details. Just going to be red and blue, and it's going to be pretty simple.
Now you're doing which humbug are you doing? The 28 powered one that?
The last model one. It's just going to be just a little simple airplane. Bob Barron came here a few years ago, about 2 years before he died, and he and Tom Dixon came up here and let all of us fly the thing. And I didn't think he knew me from Adam's House Cat, but he came over and asked me, "You want to try it?" And I said, "If you'll trust me to fly it, I'd love to fly it." And I flew the thing and probably flew as good a flight as I was flying with my Teosaki. And I'd flown TO for 2 or 3 years, so I was stunned. That crazy bell crank he had in that thing really worked. Mine does not have that weird bell crank. Mine's just a standard setup. It is reversed, but I just took a 3-inch and dotted the I in SIG, made a new hole to desensitize it a bit, and we'll see how it works out. But it's a OS 25 SF I'm putting in it, which is same bolt holes as an Air Tiger 36 or a OS 32, which I also have to go in it. But this thing's a lot lighter than the OS 30. It's lighter than OS 32, which is lighter than the Air Tiger. So I said, well, I'll try it. But I think this SF's got aluminum sleeve and piston in it because they're not usually this light. I don't know. It don't feel right. Anyway, I was told it was lighter. I'm gonna get my scale out and weigh it myself because honestly, I don't think it's any lighter than the 36. But we'll see.
Well, Bob used to fly a 32 in his.
OS 32. But then I saw Hunt take a plane with a 28 in it and fly very well. So, things can happen.
Bob, were you there? Were you there at VSC when Barron won VSC with his humbug?
Yeah, I think I was judging that year.
I think you were. That guy was driven when it came to flying, boy. In between flights,
he outflew everybody with that thing.
Oh yeah,
that was a great flying airplane.
E.S. Mark Klipinski and I, if we wanted to fly it afterwards, then we both did, and it was about one of the easiest airplanes to fly I've ever flown in my life.
Yeah, it was really neat.
Very well trimmed and turned and locked and tracked. It did nothing wrong.
I always thought inlines were supposed to have all these problems. The reason I never built one. And then I've started building inlines, and heck, they fly better than the regulars.
The only problem with inlines, really, to my way of thinking, over the years, has been prop clearance. If you're running big prop and you have an inline setup, you got to have a long landing gear.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, even this one has a pretty good size landing gear on it, but TO's got a real long landing gear too. But that's part of the secret to landing that plane. You just fly it until it quits flying. It just flops and lays there. It won't bounce.
What was that plane? What was that plane? What was that plane Barron flew before he started flying Nethman's humbugs?
He had an airplane called the PA series, the twin rudder. Yeah, PA series with the tricycle gear.
Ugly as sin, but apparently it flew good.
Yeah, they flew. I flew against those when we were both teenagers, and the northern Jersey, southern New York area. We flew against each other every week, and he flew those.
Yeah.
He used OS 35, not the S, the combat motor, and that thing was letting it whine like crazy with a 4-pitch prop.
Those were the later ones. Those were the later ones.
The
later PA series, which were a little smaller.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, PA6 is the one that I remember.
The PA1s were, I think he had Fox 35s. I don't know if I'm not mistaken.
Oh Lordy.
This goes back into the 66.
Well, that's before my competitive time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I tell you what, the guy, I kept hearing about how he had such an attitude and he was so opinionated and all, and he was opinionated. I have to say he was opinionated, but he stopped and helped me get my stuff together one evening, and he stopped and wanted to talk to Looper and look at the designs we were coming up with, and looked at the old original ombre, the 35 size ombre, and which I hope to resurrect one next year. I don't know, we'll see. But I thought he was a great guy. But that being said, the year he won the Nationals, I was there. I don't understand. I still don't understand. I watched every flight of he and Billy, and I watched his intent. I even got a clipboard and sat down over and started judging him myself. I don't know how he beat Billy.
Well, he won one round and Billy won 2 rounds, but he won by enough on the 1 round that he won the contest.
Well, he won the contest, but
he had one really good flight before it got really windy, and when it got windy, Billy won the next 2 flights. But nobody was getting high scores in the real windy flights. Billy won 2 rounds, and Bob won the 1 round in the calm weather. Hey, he flew good that week, no question about it.
Oh, he did. He did fly good. Now I can't knock it.
Whole week
the only thing I had any question about was everybody said that he was flying a double star 60 in the winning flight, and he probably did. But he also had a Tiger in there part of that time, because I watched him change the motor, and I have pictures.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was weird, but Bob was an interesting fellow. I would think his motor run was perfect, and he'd dig into the thing and put head shims in it or take them out. He was always changing something.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
He had a somewhat, I think, undeserved reputation for being abrupt and not very friendly. But the people that made that comment were people that were trying to bug him while he was trying to prep or work, working on his plane. And they were interrupting his, you don't do that to a competitor.
You don't do that to somebody that's competing. I mean, even Keith Trossel, which is about as calm and cool, just as cool a character as I've ever met. I wouldn't walk up to him when he's in the middle of a competition and start asking him stupid questions.
Right.
But I think there's several people I think the world of, and Keith is one of them. But even Keith, you don't ask a question in the middle of and people would walk up to Barron and ask him something totally unrelated to what he was doing, and then wonder why he didn't give him just stop what he was doing and give him an answer. And I guess that is where he got his reputation, but no.
You got to remember that Bob was an East Coaster and an engineer. I mean, there's 2 strikes against a guy for attitude no matter what,
Yeah.
Oh, very good. You were on a roll, Bob.
He's an East Coast engineer. But again, we flew against each other virtually every week. Because back in those days, there was at least 1 contest a week, sometimes 2 contests on the same day that you could drive back and forth. And
good grief.
Yeah, a number of people did that, 2 contests in one day. And
good gracious.
Bob was just a hard worker. I mean, he had good engineering principles in his airplanes. They weren't the prettiest things. I mean, obviously his airplanes were just machines. They weren't gorgeous airplanes, but nobody flew any better than he did in the East Coast in those days.
I saw him put up a flight in the wind one time when I couldn't believe he would even launch. I would have taken an attempt, and he flew a really good flight. And then Tom Dixon came right behind him. And Tom's another one I think has always gotten the bad end of the reputation deal. And Tom just outflew him, but Tom's problem was I was a judge that day, and I don't like 3-foot bottoms. They're impressive as hell, but they ain't by the book. So I called him down for a little bit, and he didn't like it. He came and asked me about it, but we've been friends a long time, and he's never said any more about it. I said, I judge the same for everybody. I judge Tommy Looper the same way I judge you. If you're at 4 feet, you're going to get good marks. If you're a foot above it or a foot below it, I don't care if it's high or low. If you ain't at 4 feet, you are not getting top mark.
No, that's wrong too, because the rule book says 4 to 6 foot.
Well, that's true, but 4 to 6, not high.
Yeah, but you said
well, okay, I did say it wrong. You're right. But if you're a foot high, which would be 7 feet,
right.
I mean, I'm 6'4". Right. And if you fly over my head, your bottoms are over my head, you're too high. And if your bottoms are, down here below my shoulders.
It depends if you're standing up judging or sitting down judging.
I've never sat down judged in my life. I can't do that. You know me, I'm too nervous to sit down at a contest. But anyway,
Bob Barron was a special character, and
he was.
He was a real blessing to the stunt community because he and Bill Netzi band, did seminal work on how to make these airplanes turn better and fly better and track better and everything else. He deserves a lot more than credit that he got.
Yeah, I remember talking to him, and he said he wanted to change stunt. And I couldn't figure, what are you talking about? And he showed me the 60 size Humbug, which looked like an Avani with the twin booms of the little Humbug.
Yeah, we used to call it the dustpan.
Oh, okay. It was an interesting looking airplane. Didn't have flaps.
Mm-hmm.
And he was going to change the do away with the cottage industry because he's going to not have the flaps and flap horns and all that. And I thought, man, I like you. Man, I like you, but you
worked as well as the little one did. The bigger one just never worked as well.
No, something was off in that. I don't know what it was, but it just didn't look right.
It never had the corner it needed.
Yeah.
Bob, a question here. Did you see the big 800 square inch one he had that had the McCoy 40 redhead in it, or was it the McCoy, or was it the Series 21? I don't remember which one he had.
Monty?
No, his Humbug.
I don't know if I ever saw that one or not. I saw the one he flew in '92. He went up there in '92, and it looked just like a dustpan. Yeah, Charles.
Does someone have a picture of the Humbug? Maybe our audience would like to see what it looks like.
I don't know if I don't have a picture of it. I've got the plane downstairs, but it's drying right now.
I'm sure.
I tell you what, I will in the next week or two show you a finish.
I'm sure Peter's heading over to.
Yeah, Peter, do you have a picture of the Humbug, Peter?
You can find one though, can't you, Pete?
I got an Lightning Bug, which is the same exact thing, but a profile fuselage and different aesthetics.
Yeah.
Did you ever get that canard of yours to work?
My canard?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, my canard flew good, but Robbie's got some that really fly good. And Robbie's been working with Howard and on his own too on canards. He's had about 4 or 5 of them now. We fly them in the backyard. He's got them really working very well.
Okay, that one that was in the magazine, it wasn't finished. But
Oakham's
I kept saying I would love to see that thing finished because that was just a neat looking airplane.
Yeah, that we flew that on a way too windy day with obvious results. So
Yeah.
It's a shame, but I finished it up, and it was too windy, and I said I want to fly this anyway, and just blew it out of the air.
Yeah, even the best make mistakes.
I wouldn't know about that.
Well, I've watched you fly for many years.
Was it
many years?
You probably had run out of bronze paint by that time, Bob.
No.
I'll show you a picture of that airplane if anybody's never seen it. That's a cool looking airplane.
That was Occam's razor, right?
Occam's razor, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what Occam's razor is? What the term means?
I've read it. I can't recall it.
All things being equal, the simplest solution to a problem is usually the correct one.
There you go.
Okay, makes sense.
Razor. So I'll see if I can find Occam's razor for you.
And by the way, we're up to 11 likes, so thank you very much. We been up to 20 viewers and up to 11 likes. So if you haven't hit the like button yet, please hit that. And I just realized that we have more replays after the fact. This is a live broadcast where we have 20 viewers, but on the replays we get maybe 200 views. So if you happen to be watching a replay, please like the thumb button as well. So not just now, but when you get replayed, please hit the like button. Anyway, Bob, the reason I asked about that Humbug, that big 800 square,
It's funny that I think that was a '93 design. Bob had given it to the plans to Gordon Delaney, and years later they were talking, and Bob said, "Yeah, I had this one back, you know, and I don't know what happened to the plans." He says, "Bob," he says, "you gave them to me."
Oh, man.
And so those plans exist over at Gordon Delaney's house.
I'm trying to find a picture of that thing.
It looks like a Klingon bird of prey.
Oh,
Yeah, it kind of does.
I got it here.
It's a neat looking plane. I don't know what motor was in it, but it looked like it kind of small.
I think I got it here. Hold on. Yeah.
But I saw Bob's Airplanes and Gnats one year. It had here it comes. There it is.
There it is.
There it is.
Oh, wow.
That is a cool looking thing.
Wow.
That sucker is just cool looking.
Now, what plane is this, Bob?
That's the Occam's Razor.
Beautiful.
It's
Oh,
gorgeous, man. I love it.
Yeah, it reminds me of a Klingon ship. And
That's the original one I built was called the Klingon. And then I had another one called the Romulan.
yes, yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
Boy, you never guess we're all Star
They're
Wars
essentially
kids.
the same configuration.
Yeah.
And he's got one that just really flies very, very well.
How did you start the motor?
What's electric?
Oh, it's electric. Yeah. Oh, duh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks like a fuel tank. That battery looks like a fuel tank.
Yeah, it looked like a fuel tank. I was like, what?
It does. The wires on the machine. It really does.
Starting it is a very tricky proposition. You reach your finger over to the timer and you push a button.
Oh my God! It's like, can you handle that?
Yeah, well, it sure beats breaking that elevator.
Let's see if I can find another picture of it here, close up of the nose.
Oh, there's the humbug.
There's the humbug.
That's
Thank
the
you, Peter.
28 sized one that he had it.
Yeah.
BSC.
I knew the mad scientist would find a humbug.
See, that one has a smaller fuselage than mine does. Mine's the one that was published in AMA, and it's a little bigger fuselage than that. But that's the one he kicked butt with. I mean, that thing there was amazing.
Oh, yes.
There
We
was
had some background noise too. I don't know if someone has a tab open, but we hear a background noise.
Live streaming is on.
Oops, there went the live stream.
No, it says it's on, didn't it?
Yeah,
Didn't say
it
it's
did.
off.
Said it was on. We lost Bob.
Thank
though.
you, Pete.
We lost Bob. Where'd he go?
Kick him out.
I didn't do anything. He probably come back. Says we have excellent
so.
connection, and we're still alive. So that was kind of weird.
Yeah.
Is it normal now?
Streaming.
There he is.
There you are.
Yeah, I think I actually had a problem there, and I had to come back on because I got on twice, I think, and that was where the echo was.
Oh, thank you.
Oh,
Bob.
okay.
Yeah, quieter. Excellent.
Let's see if I can find this. Is kitchen window. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. There's the notes.
Oh yeah.
That is just cool.
Yeah.
So not having the prop wash over your elevator, it didn't hurt at all?
Well, that's why the elevator is so large. You had to increase the size of the elevator quite a bit in order to get the same efficiency out of the elevator.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's one of the problems with a canard. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Even having the prop that close to the elevator?
you would think it would suck stuff over it, you know, and it probably does to a degree. But when I did the original Klingon, trying to find a way to close this. I'm having a hard time closing it. When I did the original Klingon, at a normal size elevator, and the thing wouldn't turn at all. So then I had to add like 250% more elevator area, and then it turned fine. Because you're not getting, like you say, you're not getting the artificial air blast over the surface, and that's what really makes our airplanes lively, is that artificial air blast.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to get rid of this picture, and I can't seem to do it for some reason.
There's one that says stop sharing. Oops.
And obviously, if you're trying to put the more in front of the elevator, we're just too heavy.
Well, yeah, it'd be.
Would miss the balance.
Balance. You'd have to have a really long
Streaming.
tail on it.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's all
There's
right.
a little
Glad you
thing
came
up there in the top, Bob, that says "Stop sharing." You just click on that.
Oh, okay.
So I have a comment from Eddie Sauter. He says the Outer Zone has the humbug plans. So anybody didn't know that, now you know.
All right.
I have a problem with the Outer Zone or anybody else who rips off intellectual property of somebody else and gives it away.
Good point.
Yeah.
What right does he have to take, because he has some of my airplanes up there too, my designs. What right does he have to take my intellectual property and sell it for his gain or give it away for that matter?
Yeah, that's true.
I have a problem with that. I have a problem with anybody that just takes anybody else's designs and make their own plans and sells them too.
Yeah.
And there's a number of those in our own community that do that.
Yeah.
It is, I see that on eBay quite a bit too. You see a lot of plans on eBay for sale.
Oh yeah.
Now, if somebody buys a set of plans and from flying models or wherever, and they build an airplane or decide at some point in time they want to sell the plans, they own that plan, they can sell that plan, but they can't copy it and sell a whole bunch more of them. You know what I'm saying? Right. It's okay to sell a plan that you purchased and sell that particular plan to somebody else, that's fine. But to duplicate it and sell it off, that's just making money off somebody else's intellectual property. I have a bunch of plans. I have like 400 sets of plans, and I've been pruning them out and selling them off. But it's just the one plan that I had. I'm not copying it and selling other copies of it.
Bob, along that line, I got a copy from AMA of the plan I did for Model Builders, the Twister Sister, and I'm planning on digitizing it into CAD, but then I was going to mail that as a gift to the AMA for with the CAD files so that they could make it available for the and with the parts drawings.
Yeah, they own the design. I mean, they have the rights to the design, but you're just giving them a more convenient way to do it and maybe even do kit parts. That's great. I mean, I have no problem with that at all. You're not taking anything from them. You're adding to them.
Right.
What does a Twister Sister look like?
It's a full-bodied fancherized twister, basically.
Oh, okay. All right. I did a plane. Came out about the same. Well, Bob saw it. He asked me, in fact, had I seen the fancerized twister, and I didn't have any idea what the heck he was talking about. But Bob and I came up with about the same idea at about the same. Not Bob, Ted.
People have the same. No matter what I'm talking about, they don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, whatever. But anyway, my Stinger. You saw it when you were here in Winston. Bob asked me, had I seen a fancerized twister? I knew who Ted Fancer was, but I'd never seen his twister. I didn't think he built planes like that. But it just shows you two people can have the same idea on two different coasts about the same time. But guys around here were flying my Stinger, and guys on the West Coast were flying the fancerized twister. And now, weirdly enough, I have a fancerized twister that I plan to it, that I'm going to plan on building just to see what the difference is between the two. But I like looks of mine better. I've never liked angles as much as I like curves. And I've always made mine curvy if I could.
It's funny.
I love the you name it, but it's got too many angles for me.
It's a funny story. I was busting Randy's chops. My friend Tom Hampshire knows that I like to make curves on my airplanes, all nice shapes and curves and things. So he brought me a ship's curve when he was at a flea market. He found a ship's curve and he gave it to me. I said, thanks. This is great. I said, it gives me a great idea for Randy's birthday. I'm going to send him a whole set of straight edges.
Do you remember?
But that being said, it's like we all like different things. We all like to have a different taste of anything.
Oh yeah, we all have different tastes.
I'm very partial to SV looks, the SV11 looks. I think it's very pretty. It's very racy looking. Looks like
everybody's got a different thing.
Like a mean one. However, I also like the Cobra, Billy Warwick's Cobra. I think that's absolutely just
Who's this?
fantastic.
Not Warwick, it was Woolies.
That's Steve
Yep.
Woolley.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
Steve Woolley.
Woolley, yeah.
Yeah.
I tell you
You know,
what,
I like
those
the
are both
New
beautiful planes.
Jerseyan. How that looks for a classic plane, that New Jersey.
I like that too.
Jerseyan, yeah. The John DeTavio airplane.
Yeah, pretty. I like those cheeks. I mean, for upright plane, it's a nice looking upright engine plane.
It is. And it flies good too. I mean, it was actually, that airplane was well ahead of its time. It had a very long nose and tail. I shouldn't say Mominar. They're not Mominar. It had a long nose ahead of the wing and a fairly good distance between the hinge line to hinge line, much longer than any of the airplanes in its era. It was a longer airplane, and consequently, it had much more tail volume, and it turned much better than any of his airplanes ever turned. That was the best turning airplane he ever had.
It just makes sense because you
Was
put
that
much more
before or
torque on
after?
your.
Yeah.
You torque the wing changes the angle of attack. It bites the air and it turns.
Yeah, the more tail volume you have, whether you do it with area or distance or both, you know, you get the tail to push down, get the nose up quicker, you know. So
just kind of the same philosophy I had on mine.
I got a question for John Paris. That's what called me, but he's wanting to know on the Fioretti timer. If it's breaking, if it's coming on late, is that done in the timer or in the ESP?
Sensitivity.
Sensitivity?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes,
no, really,
I think Fioretti.
He may have a slower ESC if he's not using Igor's Jetty spin ESC, a 66. Then he may have a slow ESC. The governor has to be fast in order to make it work properly.
Didn't Fioretti had like a setting over there? It's like wherever you mount it, like this or like that. And
yeah, you can
depending on how you mount it, it's gonna give you like a opposite reaction. Like it's gonna be fast on the bottom, slow on the top, and stuff like that. Could that have anything to do with it?
No, well, that thing has a setting in the program or on the ESC, whether you want the thing to be upright or inverted. So if you can mount it on the bottom of the airplane or at the top of the airplane, and it won't go opposite. You know, in other words, you can mount it. It's set up to mount on the top of the airplane as you get it, but you can mount it on the bottom of the airplane and just reverse it in the ESC.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I remember that. Yeah.
Otherwise, it was exactly opposite to what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
Right.
You're saying it works better with Igor timer, but in his advertisements, he says he said
Igor ESC.
Yeah, but I mean, Igor's. I mean, Fioretti. I can't even say his name.
Fioretti.
That timer, if you look him up in Stunt News. Oh my goodness! If you look him up on Stunt Hangar and look up his timer, he says it's set up to use with the Castle Creations.
You can use the Castle Creations; it'll work with it, but it'll work better with Igor's the
Jetty.
The Jetty Spin 66, not the Pro. The Jetty Spin 66 that Igor has was a specially designed one for him, apparently, where his specs to be much faster governor. And the governors were originally, to my understanding, were originally put in these things for helicopter head speed governing. And Castle had a pretty good one, but the Jetty one is even better. And then the one that Igor has, that Jetty did for him, is even better yet. They'll all work. But if you have a delay in it, it's probably because you have a slow governor.
Yeah, John just texted me. He's got it in medium, so I'll put it up in the fast. You know what I was wondering is that Cobra has a ESC out for the quadcopters, and so they can be used in airplanes. And that's running at 500 megahertz. It says it's the fastest one.
Might be worth trying.
You know, that before that, the fastest one was 400 megahertz. This is at 500 megahertz. So I'm wondering if that would be as fast as what that Jetty is.
remember what I said to you when we talked about electric flight years ago? I said electric power today is the worst it's ever going to be.
Yeah.
Tomorrow it's going to be better. The day after tomorrow it's going to be better yet. Glow is not going anywhere. It's fully developed. It ain't going nowhere. But electric is going up and up and up. So we're always going to find that there's going to be somebody coming out with something better. So yeah, you're right. We should try all of these ESCs. I know that Badass just came up with a complementary ESC to their Badass motors. I don't know how fast it is, but I intend to try one.
Okay. Yeah. I'm trying.
Yeah.
I'll jump over there into the Cobra and.
Yeah.
Let
us know what you find,
I don't
Bob.
have to put $1 in the jar because I said Badass motors, do I?
No.
Nah, that's a name. That's a noun. That's a noun. It really is. That really is the name.
Hey, Bob.
Yeah.
Do you remember way back we discussed, the electrics, and we talked about 12 electric motors along the leading edge of a wing, and what the advantage of that might be?
Mm-hmm.
And I find on the discussion on Stunt Hangar about twins, you know, nobody's brought up the Dorner yet with the 12 engines.
Yeah. Well, you know that Jim Aaron, and I got to be careful how I word this so I don't drop the dime here on Jim. He has got a modified SIG tutor. Not a tutor. What's the other one that they
Score.
Twister.
Score. With 6. This is probably giving out more information than I should.
I've seen it fly. He posted a video of it.
So did I. Six motors on the leading edge. Matter of fact, I want a steak dinner because he asked me if he said these little motors I'm going to use won't be enough. I said, yeah, there'll be more than enough. He said, you want to bet? I said, yeah, steak dinner. So he called up. He says, how do you want it? Medium rare? Or, with these 6 little tiny electric motors on it.
Good gracious.
Yeah.
And check out the video, Phil. It's on. I've seen it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does one flight with the airplane. On his very first flight, Rhett's out there upwind critiquing his maneuvers.
Good gracious.
Yeah.
Good gracious.
I never saw that.
Yeah, it says it has a refresh rate of 500 megahertz. And it comes, and they're fairly cheap. Comes in 40, 60 size, or 60 amp, 40 amp, 60 amp.
Now, does anybody know what the refresh rate on the Jetty is?
I looked and I could not find it. I mean, I looked through everything Igor has and all that, and they said that the reason why they slowed that down to the Jetty Pro, it was taking the gears out of these helicopters. It would change so fast.
Okay.
It makes sense.
Do we really need that?
Don't go by that, please. It's absolutely ludicrous. If you think about it, if you turn around and you're sampling something 1 cycle per second, all right, that means you're sampling every second you take a sample. Okay, so that's not fast enough. So let's make it. We're taking 1,000 samples every second. We're talking about control line airplanes. We're not talking about an F-16 that's got fly-by-wire.
No, but you can feel it. You can feel it. You can feel the difference between the Jetty Spin 66 Pro and Igor's. There's no question about it.
But that has nothing to do with has nothing to do with the sampling rate at 400 megahertz or 500 megahertz. It's something completely different going on there. It's not that.
It's a governor, and it's how fast the governor reacts.
Okay.
And it has nothing to do with
the question is, do we really need that?
You realize that 400 megahertz is 4 million, not 4,000, not 400,000, but 4 million cycles per second. The difference between 4 million and 5 million ain't a whole lot.
It's 1 million. That's a lot.
Yeah. You're probably
put that in dollar bills and I'll take it.
I mean, me too.
Feel the difference between a Castle ESC and a Spin 66 Pro and the Igor Spin. There's a definite difference. Igor's is definitely faster. You can feel the boost faster. Now all that is contingent upon having a light propeller too. The inertia of the prop has a lot to do with it.
You know what it basically is? It's the software. It's the firmware that's running the electronics.
No, that's possible.
Running the electronics is clunky. You're going to get poor resolution no matter how fast your processor runs.
You're probably right, but whatever the reason is, you can feel it.
Is the only place you get the Igor Spin 66 from Igor?
Well, yeah, the Igor Spin 66 is apparently only available from Igor. The Pro you can get from a Spree.
Okay.
Well, can you go on the Badass site and see what their rate is?
I'm not enough. I don't know much about electronics. I'm a feel guy. You know, when somebody says try this and I feel it, I said, well, that feels better. I mean, I'd have to ask Dean Pappas. He knows a lot more about it than I do, and find out why or what we have to look at in each of these ESCs to know how quick the governor is. That may be something totally different than Peter's discussing.
Yeah, 400 megahertz for our purposes is way fast enough.
I'm just glad to hear Dean Pappas is still around. I hadn't heard his name mentioned so long. I was afraid something happened to him.
But is that the response rate of the governor? Is that what that refers to, or is it something else?
No, just think about it in relation to your computer. When you turn around and they say, oh, this is a 500 megahertz Pentium CPU, or it's a 1.2 gigahertz Pentium CPU. It's how fast the processor can process instructions, and how fast it's running to be able to process instructions. So ultimately, what ends up happening is, when your software gets to a certain point, and it's more top heavy, the software is more cumbersome to run. It requires a faster processor to process through all the instructions. In this case, 400 megahertz processing some sort of sensor input is the sensor that's actually sending it the instructions to either speed up or slow down or react is all a function of, number one, the sensor, number two, the software that's communicating the electrical impulses to the processor that's got to decipher them and to execute whatever you want it to do at that point. And I'm just saying, 400 megahertz, 500 megahertz in our application is really meaningless. I mean, 400 megahertz, come on.
Well, how come I'm sure you're right about all that. I'm just wondering if there's something we're talking about that are different than what, different thing than what you're talking about.
Oh yeah.
We're talking about how fast the governor can slow down the prop and then speed up the prop. It's inertia. Like how fast it reacts when you turn a corner, with all the other settings being given, the same.
Ultimately, that's
here's what John wrote.
Resolution that you're using.
Yeah.
Here's what John wrote. Data acquisition at 1 hertz is not significant to catch RPM change, but 10 hertz is much better, and that's only a factor of 10. So I don't know
you're talking about
data is.
So
I know John's an engineer and he works with this stuff. So there's something there.
Yeah, it's probably the resolution of the accelerometer that's making it that is turning on, reporting back. Okay, I've now changed. I've seen it change from point A to point B, and then the software does the rest.
Right.
But I don't know if there's any software in there.
Oh, there has to be. Basically, there's firmware. There's some sort of instruction set that is, turning around and saying, I have an accelerometer. I need to, make a change in engine RPM versus what I'm seeing on my it's like an accelerometer or an inclinometer.
There's software in it because you make changes to it, so it has to.
You have a program.
In order to be able to read it, there has to be. You're changing the software.
Well, I'm crunching some numbers here. So if you do a lap, say at 68 foot lines, so you have 2 pi r per lap times 12 is going to give you how many inches you travel in 1 lap, which is 5,127 inches per lap. You divide it by 5 million, which is 50 megahertz, this thing is updating every thousandth of an inch.
Good
Yeah.
grief.
I mean, do we
That's ridiculous.
really
If you're
need
there,
that?
that kind of
Can you make
No.
the difference between 1,000th of an inch or 1.2 thousandths of an inch between things that update in there? I mean, is it realistic to even think about that?
No,
Or
that,
just sometimes I'm even thinking even past that. Do you even I mean, you can be very biased if somebody tells you this ESC is going to do that, and you fly it, and your mind's already programmed to do that. I think it's more fair to say, I'm going to put several ESC in your plane. You fly them. Tell me what you think about it, but you will not know which is which.
I'd like to try that. I'd like to, if someone were
You
to do
don't
that.
know which is which.
I had a Spin 66 Pro in the airplane, and then I got the Igor one to put it in, and there was a definite difference. It was not even a little bit. It was a lot.
wouldn't surprise me. It probably has to do with it's not going to be the processor speed. It's probably what firmware, what software he's got in there running the hardware.
Mm-hmm. What do you run now, Bob?
No, I just have a comment. What we're talking about might be beyond our circle of awareness, but one thing is for certain is that Bob Hunt recognized the difference. Maybe we don't know why.
Not just me, but everybody does.
Yeah, so it might be something we just don't know that's beyond our circle of awareness, which is inside this circle.
Right.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah, Bob, remember that.
Yeah.
But do you guys know the difference between ooh and ah?
No.
It's about an inch.
Better put
Bob,
a dollar in the
what
jar
ESC do you run now? Bob, what ESC do you run now? Don't pay any attention to him, Bob. He'll drive you crazy. What ESC do you have in your plane now?
The airplane behind me here on the wall, it's got the Igor, the Jetty Spin, but not the Spin 66, but not the Pro.
Okay.
The Pro is slower than Igor's version. I got the other one in the Genesis, and here's an interesting thing. It works fine in the Genesis because the Genesis is like 10 ounces lighter.
Oh, okay.
So there has to be more to this. It has to maybe to do with the inertia of the airplane. The weight of the airplane or something. It has to.
You're already flying the Genesis. It's
What's
not
that?
even painted yet. You're already flying the Genesis. It's
No,
not painted yet.
2001.
Oh, yeah. And that's 1 inch longer nose than what what it was with the blow motor in it.
Yeah, so that's
right.
That's
this was the old blow airplane. I just converted it.
I know, but you extended the nose 1 inch, right?
Not on the old one. It's still got a 10-inch nose. The new one's got almost a 12-inch nose.
Okay, so I'll have to extend it a little bit more then. Okay, I'm building one. I've got one started that was started 2 years ago and I hadn't finished. Go ahead.
The place where the governor, the fast governor, has a place and has a significant importance is not how fast the processor can process it, how fast it can change the RPMs from one to the next based on what was inputted into the how fast it changes RPMs based on the command that's being given to it.
You want to flash that plane again, Bob? I actually made you bigger now. Thank you. So we're looking at the converted Genesis.
That's the one that was built in 2001, and it originally had the Rojet rear exhaust in it, which I handed over to Brett for the hurling contest, and put in the Merlin 40 Light that Randy sold, and it worked great. And then I switched it over to a Axie 28-26-10 for the 2006 World Championships. And then when I came home, we retrofitted it again, and now it's got a Cobra 3515 motor in it, a 5S system because it's very light, and it's got the Jetty Spin Pro in it.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would really be nice if the badasses are just as responsive as the jetties, because much less expensive too.
And John said that he's went from a cheap ESC to the Castle Creations, and the next one is the Jetty Spin. And he's gonna see he's gonna see what happens. But he said that he agrees with you, Bob, that by going up to a faster ESC, he notices the difference.
Faster governor, yeah.
Faster governor, yeah.
And again, Peter's probably right about all that other stuff. I don't know why it works, but you can definitely feel the difference between the Spin Pro 66 and Igor's Spin 66. There's no question about it. Igor's is faster.
Well, you know, one thing would be the accuracy. It's more of a sampling, the better the accuracy would be.
That's possible. Whatever it is, you know. Now, we're kind of comparing apples to bowling balls, too, you know. So.
Yeah.
I have a question from the audience. Eddie Sutter has a question. He says, when you say 10-inch nose, is that from the leading edge to the prop?
To the back plate of the spinner, yeah. That's it. People used to call that the nose moment. It's not a nose moment. It's just a measurement.
Yes.
Leading edge of the wing where it exits the fuselage to the back plate of the spinner is the nose length. We used to call that a nose moment. It's not a moment. You know.
Now, if you extend your nose, you make it longer. You obviously move the electronics a little bit more further forward and whatever, you know. Wouldn't you, at the same token, extend the tail a little bit to balance it out?
Well, in my experience, and a lot of other people's experience, and I can't explain this, but in that exact airplane, going from a glow engine to an electric motor required us to move the CG forward to get the same performance. The CG is much further forward. Now, having said that, most people, when they balance their glow engine airplanes, they balance them without any fuel on board. So they're getting a balance point that's really not realistic. When they fill the tank, you're putting anywhere from 6 to 8 ounces of fuel in the airplane.
Yeah.
Nominally, almost an ounce.
Yeah, moves forward, yeah.
You take off, you know, you have a more forward CG. I don't know how many people actually put this fuel in that balance their airplane to find out where it is. But with the electric airplanes, we're noticeably forward of where we used to balance the glow airplanes. Now, because you don't burn off the fuel, that CG never shifts.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The glow airplane, it starts shifting immediately.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And here's a good experiment. Try this sometime and get back to me and tell me what you found. Take off with your glow airplane with a full tank of fuel on a windy day, and go up and do your overhead 8 and your hourglass and your vertical 8 and your clovers as the first maneuver. Do your clover and your overhead 8 first. With a glow engine airplane, those maneuvers come at the end of the pattern when you burned off all that fuel and you got a tail heavy airplane.
Yep.
And you know how hard that clover entry is in heavy wind? Just ask Les McDonald sometime about that. Going into that first loop in a heavy wind, you almost can't penetrate back into it. Put the CG forward, do that as your first maneuver, it's no problem at all. So that's another advantage of electric, is to have the center of gravity where it belongs throughout the whole flight. But that's a whole separate thing than what we're talking about. For some reason, the electric airplanes want a more forward CG than the glow airplanes do. I can't explain why.
Well, that makes sense because your average CG on a glow, when you fuel it up, is much more forward than what you're actually measuring with a empty fuel tank. So you pretty much kind of, in your electric setup, in your particular case, you're pretty much balancing the plane to the average CG on a glow.
Yeah.
Because it's more forward then.
So
again, it depends on the plane too.
Instead of having to add nose weight to the airplanes I've converted, the Crossfire and the Genesis were converted from glow airplanes. Well, not the Crossfire, with the Genesis. Instead of adding nose weight, I've designed the airplanes to have longer noses, so you're just putting the weight that's in the airplane further forward. You don't have to add any dead weight to get the CG where it belongs.
Oh, I get it, yeah.
Yeah, you just, the nose length is just to balance the airplane.
Yeah. Well, in addition to that, I can also say, in addition to that, Bob, electrical motors are much lighter than the IC motors.
Yeah.
So the weight distribution is much further aft than an IC setup, because if you take an IC with a heavy motor in the front and the fuel tank behind it, which is lighter, the electric is opposite.
Well, that's exactly what we're talking about. In order to get the airplane to balance without adding extra nose weight, you got to move the weight that's there further up. We're talking about the difference between a glow engine with a header pipe on it, maybe being anywhere from 12 to 13 ounces with the header on it and everything, to a glow engine that runs the same prop and everything being 6 ounces.
Yeah.
So, you know,
I mean, electric engine.
Move it out further.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well,
I wonder if it'd be advantageous to get the CG on the IC motor with a full tank, and then also get the CG with an empty tank, and then get the average and use that as your CG.
Yeah. Or better yet, just go to electric and forget glow.
Yeah. Eventually, I would be doing that.
No.
It's hard. It's hard to find the CG on a IC motor with a full tank because it's usually in forward of the wing.
Mm-hmm. Not really. No way.
The center of gravity is forward of the wing with a full tank?
Yep.
I've never tried
8 ounces in that nose, like with a piped engine.
Yeah, but it's not in the very forward of the nose. The tank compartment's closer to the leading edge. I doubt if the CG is forward of the leading edge with a full tank. I think it is closer to the leading edge, but I don't think it's forward of the leading edge.
Yeah, it's probably going to move about half an inch to 3/4 of an inch forward, no more than that.
The nobler of the fuel plane over the electric plane is 3/4 of an inch.
Mm-hmm.
Dead on it, 3/4 of an inch.
Okay.
I've got the marks on the wing at 2.5, which is where it's 2.5 or 2 or 3/4, whatever it says on the plan. And the fuel plane balance is dead on it, but the electric plane is 3/4 of an inch further forward than that, and it flies just like the fuel one.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and my Ukrainian motors only use 5 ounces of fuel.
Well, there you go. You're not getting as much of a CG shift.
Right. You know, I'm probably,
but you got to run them on vodka.
Yeah.
You know, that
but
one.
if you have a bad day, though, you can drink it.
Vodka's cheap.
You know, that was one thing with the pattern planes when we tested all that. We were running 16 ounces of fuel to get through, And then we ended up using the motors with pumps on them and putting the tank back at the CG.
Yeah, I did the same thing with my EU1A with the YS pumper.
Yeah, because it was such a huge difference. I mean, hell, Rossi's could barely get through a pattern with 16 ounces.
Wow.
Yeah,
Rossi's were powerful, but they were thirsty.
Yeah, they were real thirsty.
Expensive hobby.
Yeah. Well, like you say, the only real hobby is spending money.
About the, making the nose longer for, to balance out and all that good stuff, right? And I completely agree with you, but it also depends on the kind of plane that you're building as well.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I think inline planes love a more forward CG. Just because they are just a little bit, the elevator is in the dirty air most of the time. So they hunt a little bit and you move the CG forward to cool them off. And
it's funny because I got into this discussion with somebody just a whole bunch of times recently about, why is inline motor can't be good because all the designs have the engine above the thrust line above the wing center line. Well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like which came first, the horse or the cart. Why is that? Well, it's because we went to bigger propellers, and if you had an inline setup, the landing gear got longer. Instead of doing that, they moved the motors up. It had nothing to do with them flying better. It had to do with drop clearance. And now that we're running smaller diameter propellers generally, a lot of people go back to smaller diameters, and Paul has always said that smaller diameters work better. Now we can go for fairly short landing gear, put the engine in line with the wing, and we have our cake and eat it too. And yeah, they fly better. There's no question about it.
Yeah, no. When I'm thinking in line, I really don't care much about where the motor is placed as much as the wing and the elevator being aligned on the same line, because you have the elevator flying in dirty air all the time.
Yeah, well, I think that all of it in line is probably the best setup. I've had a few like that, and they fly great. But when I went to bigger propellers, like everybody else, I moved the motor up so I would have more prop clearance without, stilty looking landing gear,
Yeah.
Now I'm back to shorter. Now, this is one of the main advantages of a twin. You can have an all inline airplane and very short landing gear because you're using two shorter diameter props, let's say nominally 9-inch props, but you still have 18 inches of disc span. You get two of them. And there's a whole lot of other advantages to it too. But you can have very short landing gear and an inline airplane.
Okay. Yeah.
Did you ever?
Of course, you can run a beat tail, and you get your medium is up a little bit higher to where you're somewhat out of the dirty air.
No, you'd have to get Denny Adamison on here to talk about that because he had a bunch of those.
Oh yeah, well my Vanguard's that way.
Oh, yeah. When I made the decision where to put my elevator on my plane, I had a long conversation with Warnowski at the time, and Warnowski came. He made a Cardinal in 1992, a yellow one. They had everything in line. Had the motor, the elevator, the wing, and he said it wouldn't track, it wouldn't lock, it wouldn't do any of the good stuff that we need. And he said also, on the same token, he said many months and years later, then he built the Tiger Cat. He said that was the best tracking plane with the best corner, with the best, best overall performance. And if you look at the difference between the two planes, one had a tail is up way up there in clean air, and the other one was in line. He said, like, as he moved over in time from design to design, it just got better.
I don't want to cast any dispersions on any person or anything, but let's take this one step further. He said that airplane inline didn't fly well at all.
Yeah.
Sure, it was because of the inline setup or because the airplane wasn't built accurately.
I don't know.
Well, there you go.
I don't know, but I think he
I've
built pretty nice planes and pretty accurate. I mean, it was a good build back then. So
Rooney was a great finisher, and he had his own thing going. But I've flown a lot of his airplanes, and no two of them ever flew like me. They always turned unequal and everything. I don't think he spent as much time on alignment as he spent on finishing.
Okay.
That's him,
I'm buying that.
And so I take it with a grain of salt that he said the inline airplane didn't fly well.
Okay.
That may have been because he had incident issues. I don't know.
Yeah.
He had a few really good airplanes too,
Yeah.
The Wolgas Pentastar is an inline.
Every single combat airplane's an inline airplane, so and those things turn like no tomorrow.
Yep.
Lou Wolgas Pentagram is an inline airplane, and he's been campaigning it now for 10, 12 years.
Every time I look at that thing, I see Billy's GOXL.
GOXL, yep.
How come in real life planes, we're talking the full size planes, you will never see an inline plane? It doesn't exist.
They don't have to do loops and spins and rolls and things,
Exactly.
Or what about the aerobatic planes then? The let's call them the extra 300, the Yaks, the Sukhoi 26, and no.
Aren't they in line? A lot of those are in line?
None of them are in line.
Really?
It don't exist.
And then of course most
one single plane in the real world that has an inline setup doesn't exist.
Sort of dihedral too, so for regular airplanes, you want some form of stability.
Yeah. They are all fighting for putting the elevator in cleaner, and you even see them on the twin planes. You have a twin planes with the engines over here. You're gonna see the elevator elevated and with the dihedral in it. Just put it in clean air. It's just because
I think they're all flying in a straight line, and they're not being flown by a guy with ropes in the center of a circle either. So.
But the only thing is that if you're doing a loop, inside, outside, one way you're flying through dirty air. Because the air coming off there, the turbulence, if it's higher out of the air doing an inside,
then
if you turn it over, now it's in dirty air. Maybe that's why it turns one way better than it does the other.
Yes, yeah. I mean, on my plane, I don't feel it at all. I don't feel a difference in there. Maybe Bob would feel it because he's more versed in flight more than I do.
Then of course, you have your jet aircraft, your military jet aircraft, where just about everything is almost pretty much in line.
Yeah.
Guys, let me interrupt for a second here. It's a little after 12 o'clock for some people. It's only a little after 9 for me. I'm going to end the stream, but I want to let the audience know that we're not done. We keep going. Sometimes the after party is better than the part that stream. So I want to encourage you, if you don't come in here live, you're going to miss everything else we talk about. So, register at stunthangar.com with your real name, first and last name with a space, and a valid email address, and Sparky will approve you so you can come on in here and not miss out. Because you're going to miss out. I'm going to end the stream. We're going to keep on talking until we get tired. And I want to thank you for the likes. We're at 13 likes right now. We've had as many as 20 viewers. And I know we're going to have more viewers as replays. And again, I want to encourage you to like the program, particularly the replays. Like that. And don't forget our super chat. And don't forget our memberships. Our membership starts at $4.99 a month. That's only 17 cents a day. And I want to thank everybody here and those who were here earlier for coming in. It wouldn't be a show without you guys. I appreciate you guys very much. And I appreciate you out in the audience too. So thank you very much. So go out there and have some fun and come back and tell us what you did. And I'm going to get ready to end this stream here. Let me
let everybody know that Gary talks up a storm once we go off in live.
What they missed the last time was even you going off, Charles. Is I gave a little tutorial on how to monocoat your engine compartment so you don't get any fuel creep underneath your monocoat.
Yeah,
you can do that in the future, or are you going to do that tonight? You mean, or
no? That's what I did last week. I mean,
okay. In fact, thank you, Peter. I forgot to mention what we talked about was we started off with flying in the wind. And we talked about trimming. Something I learned today was about the wicker barrel effect. And we talked about the humbug. And we had a lot of discussion about ESCs. And then interesting, we talked about the CG and how with the electric it stays the same. And with an IC, as the fuel tank empties, the CG changes. And so that's just some of the things we talked about. So again, I'm going to bid everybody out there good night, and I'll see you again next